Hello, it's Wednesday the 30th of January. We're nearly at month end. It's a busy week later for the rest of this week in the markets, with the Fed tomorrow, the Bank of England Thursday, non-farm payrolls on Friday. Today we've also got other news coming up. Tomorrow we've got Canadian GDP, we've got Australian inflation data. The second half of this week is really going to hot up. For today, though, everything in the broader market seems to remain really bullish if you're not in China, and rallying into month end. The tone with the Evergrande liquidation is a little less happy in Chinese markets, but so far that doesn't seem to be spreading, and everything else seems to stay pretty bullish. I think the most interesting thing I'm watching is the tone in the oil market. Yesterday we hit a big target level in the oil market, and that's turning lower. And one of the big surprises came from Saudi Arabia, Saudi Aramco, the national oil company. They were planning to boost their oil output. And I think that they got persuaded not to do it. At the moment, oil is trading at $78, near $80. And Saudi Arabia, which used to run very cheaply, now needs $108 a barrel to balance its budget. And of course, we're nowhere near that. And so the only way they're going to get the oil price up there higher is with oil production cuts. Because at the moment, these countries, that we've sanctioned, like Iran and Russia, are just selling it all to China. And so China, which would previously have bought elsewhere, now has all it wants, and so that has really reduced demand. So I'm not sure that they're going to be able to get that price up to where they want it, unless we have a war, which, let's face it, we can't rule it out. But for now, though, let's take a look at what's going on in the Bitcoin market, because this is the 5th month. If we end up where we are now, which is back in the middle of this sideways range that we've been in, we are basically going to be up for a 5th month in the row. At the moment, January is going to be up 2%. It's been a really exciting news month. The ETFs got launched. There's now kind of no way for Americans not to be able to invest in crypto. And I think it's going to be quite interesting to see now what's going to happen with these ETFs and the fee war. I think it's going to make it very cheap until it's resolved who the winners and the losers are. So let's take a look at the Bitcoin price then and see where we are. We'll look at Solana in a minute. And if we look at this monthly, here we are in a very nice doji, sitting just above this 50% level, having reverted a 61.8 fib. If I measure the fibs from the highs in November 2021 to the lows in November 2022, that is. So we said that this 50% level, if we held above it, would be quite bullish and we would continue higher. And really, if we go down to the weekly, you can see that since the beginning of December, we've been trading in a very close weekly range based on opening closes. We had a false break out higher, and kept us in the range. We had a false break lower, and now we've kept us in the range. And then today, having pushed up above these, we are testing the top highs of this range again. So could we have a little bit of a pullback here? Yes, we possibly could. We've got 5 waves up also, which does tempt us to come back to potentially testing this 42,000 level before we go higher. On the 4-hour chart here, whenever you look at candlesticks and you see either a double top or a little swing failure pattern like we've got here, this is Bitcoin's kind of favorite double top, double bottom. So quite often you'll see this. You'll see a low and a false break, retest of that low where you make a slightly lower low and you're going up again. And same on the highs. You'll see a high, a retest of that highs with a false break higher, and then a reversal. And so on a kind of lower time frame here, it's more obvious. Obviously on an hourly, we made a high and then a false break high. Now we're back at the sideways top of this range, but because this is kind of a big deal level, and it's a big deal level in terms of weekly closes, where we have paused here there. Let's put our weekly closes on. So we're kind of at the top of this range. If I go back to the 4 hour as well, what I'm looking at from the high to this low is kind of a 50% retrace. That's very common in corrections. And if I put my fib retrace levels on, this 50% retrace is exactly where we have paused, 43,750. And then when we were looking at breaking out above these moving averages at the start of the week, then 43,750 was really kind of the target level. Potentially this could turn into a bigger pullback here. 50% or mean reverting markets tend to mean revert, and that would mean a 50% pullback of this rally perhaps, and that would put us back at the bottom of this sideways range and back, you know, in the low 41,000 zone. So if you've been long anticipating, this is quite an important level. Watch out that this doesn't turn into a bearish reversal. What does that look like for me? Well, to be honest, I'm out. I tell you why. Because I look at these 15-minute moving averages, this double top here, and what I see is these moving averages have reversed, and so now I'm going to wait for a bigger pullback or a better buy signal. It might be that, you know, we go up higher and yeah, I'll buy some more back on a pullback, but at the moment, as we come into month end, this is looking a little bit toppy, and so I am much reduced position as we do this. Did we hit our target in ETH? In ETH, yes, we did. We hit a pretty important one, which was this daily 50 moving average on a back test. And if we look back in ETH, this daily 50 is a pretty big deal. Now, in terms of fib retrace levels, I think we have done pretty well, and potentially we're seeing more upside. So in terms of support and resistance now, we're in a pretty narrow range. This daily 50, if we break above it, we are likely to continue higher, and we are likely to potentially see 50% back of this whole swing, and it would be quite bullish. But in terms of daily moving averages, unless we can close above this daily 50, which is at 23.31, potentially we could head lower from here. Let's take off this line and go one lower. So short term, again, 4 hour and hourly, we've got that double top pattern, little bit of a pause, potentially then a little bit of a bigger pullback here. I think if I measure from this low to this high, if I haven't got a very big ETH position, but what I have got, I think back underneath 2292, 2292, I might sell and wait for a better entry in ETH, because, you know, in terms of all of these daily moving averages, a reversal underneath these daily moving averages does normally point to lower. I know that we have got really good support here in ETH that we have held from these previous lows and these highs, but I do think that there's room to go a little bit lower. So underneath that's 2292, I'm going to be sitting on the sideline in ETH and waiting for a bigger pullback. Let's take a look at some more. First of, some requests. Let's take a look at Pendle. This is a weekly chart of Pendle. I'm using crypto because I really like the history. Here it goes all the way back to, you know, November 2021, and this one is on an absolute ripper. Now, when I'm not sure, here we've had a lovely first initial kind of 5-wave swing here in Pendle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I look at this pullback. So I measure this first swing, and I would expect normally, you know, if this is going to be a wave 3, that this gets to 1.618 or potentially even all the way up to 2.618 of the first swing. But when I project, you know, I do a lot of things. I measure from this high to low and look at fibs beyond that. I can also do it from this swing. I tend to put on quite a lot and look for confluence, like where do all the levels line up together. And if we do that here, so I'm going to put in these bigger levels, and I want to see where the clusters are, or where we might have a little bit of a pause and a pullback. Still not, I want to see that we don't get a reversal here and turn red and end up in the party's over, basically. And so when I look at it this way, I think that there's, yeah, potentially up here, somewhere between 3.7 and 4.1 if we keep going. So those are the two bigger levels I'm looking at. We might have a little bit of a wobble here, but I don't really have much other confluence. So potentially this is a little bit of a pause level, but it's not a reversal yet. And here, when I look at the lower time frame moving averages, just like I did with ETH or the hourly here, we're holding above them and riding high. There's no question that we have reversed this uptrend yet, even on the 15-minute. And you know, 15 minutes is a good lesson of when we're going to see a bigger pullback. For example, here, let's look at this previous swing higher that we had in Pendle. These 15-minute moving averages, every time we pull back into them or we didn't make a new low, we were still going higher. Here we can do the same and say, as long as we don't take out these lows here or flip these moving averages and become resistance, Pendle's still going higher and it's holding above this cluster of fib levels, and we are going to be looking for, you know, likely 3.2 and then 3.8 to 4.2 next. So no bearish reversal yet. If we happen, sometimes, you know, if you get a cluster where you expect it to have a bit of a breather and it doesn't, the pattern that you make when you kind of go a little bit further than you should is normally a head and shoulders pattern. So we'll get like this. If we did something like this here, that, and then break the neckline, that would be a bit of a bigger warning of a bigger pullback. But at the moment, Pendle's still going higher, and actually, you know, pretty nice three-wave pullback here. I don't recommend something this overbought unless you're just short-term trading, but a little three-wave pullback here and then continuing higher would be a pretty good look for Pendle. So let's look at Tau Bit Sensor, which is another one we have been following pretty nicely. Let's have a tidy up. Again, this morning I was looking at all the target levels for where Bit Sensor goes when we keep going higher. I think around 469, 449 to 469, there is the potential that we have a little bit of a pause here, but this is really accelerating, and it's not a good idea to take, you know, on a market that's making new highs and accelerating like this. I don't think it's a good idea to take profit at a level. I think it's a good idea, if you can watch it, to watch for, again, those lower time frame reversals here. If we look at our 15-minute, we had a pullback to the bunched up moving averages, keep going. You know, we're still riding high and there's no bearish reversal here yet. Are we approaching a zone where we might see one? Yeah, I would keep an eye on it. But if we keep going higher and we keep riding these moving averages higher, use those Heikin Ashi if you like, or those lower time frame moving averages. This is still going up, and I expect 600 to 650 next for Tau, if we can hold above 470. So still going higher in this one. Sui, I think I tweeted this one yesterday. Had a little bit of a breakout, and the little breakout that we had has hit its target. Let's find it. 1 second. Here we go, Sui. Okay. So when we were looking at this one yesterday, we were looking at Sui here. I've drawn my fib retrace levels. This is a Binance chart from the big swing high in May to the low that we made in October. Each one of these fib levels have been respected really nicely. The 236 is my touchstone. So if you get a reaction there, you can tend to lean on the others. And so at this 61.8, we did initially a 61.8, 38.2 thing, and then we were holding above it, making a little bullish flag here. And so I said, if we break out from here, our next upside target is 1.64, which is the 786 fib. And obviously, if we hold above that, we're going to keep going higher, and we're going to retest the highs and go level to level to level. So that's how I'm looking at this. At this point, if we continue higher here, I'm going to put in that 886 as well, because that's sometimes a little bit of a wobble level. But generally, if you go beyond the 786, you kind of tend to keep going to retest the highs. So only in crypto does it do that 886 thing regularly. Now, we've had a little bit of a reversal here at this 786 fib. So let's see, have we flipped our 15-minute moving averages? Yes, we have. And we are a little bit liable now for a bigger pullback. These swing lows, if they break, we're going to come back to the 200 moving average. on this 15-minute, and then we're going to look at whether we flip the hourly moving averages and so on. So SUI potentially starting a little bit of a bigger correction here at a big fib level. I would, if you're a long-term hodler in SUI, which a lot of people are, I would only sell and get out completely if we lost this swing low and this previous wave fall, because that's very often where corrections tend to come back to. Not only that, but if you reverse at a 786 fib retrace and you confirm it by trading underneath the 61.8, you tend to come back to the 38.2, which down here at 0.98. So that's 30% lower than where we are. That's quite a lot to give back. So that's our support. And if that support breaks, there's a short trade between these two levels. So bigger pullback coming. For SUI, that's how I'm seeing that one. Let's take a look at SEI and SEI LOR. These ones. This is, I think, in SEI, we have done that thing that we just looked at potentially in SUI, in a bigger pullback. And when you're always looking for a bigger pullback, you're looking for a bigger three-wave pullback. And here on the daily, we started this correction at the 3rd of January. It's taken all month. And I think that this potentially is heading up again. Here's the rule we're going to apply here. When you do an equal measured move, which is exactly what we have done here in SEI, textbook equal measured move, you confirm the bullish pattern by trading back above the 61.8 on a back test. That's your resistance level. And if we look at this on a lower time frame here, you can see it was resistance, 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 and now we've broken above it. So we are probably on our way next to the top of this flag. That's the trade here. And we are only wrong about this if we trade back underneath this 61.8 level on a back test at 0.68. So this one I like on pullbacks. So that means it's not actually an entry right here. What we would need to see one here is on a 4-hour hourly to hold that level of support. And as long as we don't close or underneath it, we are still going higher here, and target is the top of this channel, and then potentially a breakout higher to retest the highs, which are at the big round number 1. I kind of like this too, because if I zoom out here, if we look at it on the hourly or the daily, sorry, 4-hour or the daily, this is looking like potentially a wave 5 starting. So we have a big wave 1, 2, 3, big wave 4, and then looks good, doesn't it? This thing is with crypto, especially altcoins, you know, what they'll tend to do is start really slowly, which we do here, and then they kind of just go exponential. So let's see if we can do that here in SEI, and then in SEI Silor. Here's another one, which I think I've got all these marked on, and here's why, because I think this made a wave 1, 2, and this wave 3, the C leg, was one of those descending wedges or declining wedges with 5 waves down, and we've broken out of it, so it looked a bit like this. So yeah. Now when we do that, let's take all of these off then for now. This bottom, where I was expecting it to be a bottom, we got a double bottom. It's also a 61.8 fib level all the way from this big low. That makes it really kind of nice and simple, because first off, we've got this really clear horizontal resistance if we break out of it. And if we do, and we break these horizontal levels, our first target is this 50% pivot level in the middle, which is at 0.0865. That's our bearish target. If we get up there, we will, that's just going to be, you know, 50% of this most recent swing, a back test of this big 200 moving average. And if we get up there and reverse, it's quite likely that we're going to see another leg lower. But above here, above 0.0865, I'm pretty excited. I think we go up to this 38.2, and this, you know, very often in the golden ratio zone, in between the 61.8 and 38.2, you do come back and test this 50% pivot. So I wouldn't be surprised. But for me, that's, I think, that a bottom above this 0.0865 level. So yeah, Silor, SEI LOR. holding these daily moving averages and breaking out from this sideways range that we have been in, that would be pretty good. So above the daily 20 moving average. So from this little sideways range, it's 0.075. Above 0.075, we're looking for 0.0865, and then above 0.0865, that level should become support, and we are cooking with gas, if you like. Okay, let's take a look at some more. Let's look at OFN, Open Fabric, because I was looking at this big pullback that we're in here. We've got a slightly higher low. Whenever you make a slightly higher low like this, you know, one thing about channels, so horizontal levels and trend lines, for me the third touch, I always expect it to be a false breakout. So for example, here on the lows here, we had one touch, two touches, false breakout, and we stayed within the channel. Here on the upside, we had one touch. This is a parallel channel, look, so if I move it, you can see it's all lined up like this. There we go. And I lined it up off these bottom. So here we had one touch, second touch. Here's our false breakout, but this time, instead of heading lower, we are breaking out for, we've confirmed the channel, and now potentially we're breaking out for real. So that's potentially a good look for this Open Fabric. What would be bearish here is if this is a big 1, 2, 3 and then just 1, 2, 3 correction, and we go back to the lows, which quite often happens in these coins, you know, when they're in their early stages. So what's the equal measured move level that we've got to get above? I'm measuring this first swing like this, projecting it from here. You can see that we are 0.23 then is the level that we've got to get above, and then that's us on our way higher. I'm not trusting these fib levels, so I'm going to leave it off for now and say probably, you know, the top of this range would be a good sort of first target. 2.8 would be a really nice wherewith, you know, that's what I'm looking for. But bigger picture, I would say I would measure from this first swing to this high, and this then measure from this pullback. And so 2.8 would also line up with the 61.8 of that, and then the equal measured move up here at 0.38 would be my second target. So if we can break out above 0.23, first target 0.285, second target 0.381 in Open Fabric, looking pretty good then for a breakout. Those are the two targets. Nice look for those. And yeah, you know, third target, we should probably put it in if it goes parabolic, 0.53. You never know, do you? Anything AI at the moment seems to be pretty hot, and that looks pretty good. So let's take another one that's AI, and that's Render. Now this is another one where this, when I look at this on the weekly, first of all, it looks pretty nice. I measure the relationship between these two swings because whenever it stops at a kind of equal measured move level, it points to potentially being corrective. And you can see here that we kind of went beyond that. And I think actually we've got more upside in a fifth wave coming potentially. Another way to go level to level to level is to measure the fib retrace levels. You can see we had a little bit of a 61.8 thing going on. We didn't quite get down to the 38.2, but this 50% level in the middle became a little bit of resistance here. The problem when you only look at one exchange and they don't quite line up, I wonder if there's another exchange where it looks at like that, because it kind of really does line up if you do that. And maybe I'm looking at the wrong exchange and this is just depressed prices. Either way, potentially, if we go beyond the equal measured move level in Render, we are headed for more upside. And for me, 6.25 would be next. Now, now that we've broken out of this sideways range, where is that troublesome equal measured move level that we need to get above? 4.5. Now we're peaking above it at the moment. We need to keep going, really. We are just literally, I had it on my watch list as a potential ABC reversal here. And let me just make sure I've lined up correctly. Yeah, it looks like we're breaking out. That's pretty good. So next target, if we continue above 4.5, is 5, round number 5. And then second target is 6.25. Now, back underneath 4.5 is not an immediate sell or a guaranteed sell, but it would be bearish if this 61.8 level and all of these bunched up 4-hour moving averages did not hold as support. So this would be a bearish pattern with another swing lower underneath 4.16. In between here is like do nothing, no man's land. Okay. Above here we're bullish, underneath here we're bearish, in here choppy, be careful. Okay, and then we are going to look at another one, which of course the Jupiter Airdrop, GJITO. Let's take a look at that one, which is connected of course to Solana. So we'll take a look at Solana as well. So first off, when I look at this on it, let's take it off. We've got pretty flat daily moving averages here, which means potentially this is, the problem with when you draw 3-wave corrections is if you just do 3 waves corrections going higher, it just means you've done the first leg of a bigger correction. But for me, the moving averages are king, and holding above this daily 50 moving average here would be pretty bullish for more upside. And it would mean, I think, that at least at a minimum, we'll measure this first swing. This would be our bearish target where we would 61.8 of the first swing, 2.65. 3.19 would be the equal measured move, still not a bullish target. And then above there, we're going to look for 4.07 and new highs. And let's see if they line up with the fib retrace levels, because they kind of work better when they do. Yeah, we've got 3.19 then for this 61.8 level, and this 886 for our first really bullish target. So I don't know if we're going to do this or not. We might end up just being, quite often when new coins start, or if they don't have that much momentum, you'll end up doing big 3-wave corrective patterns. You see that a lot in commodities as well. But short term, yes. Does this look really strong to keep going higher? Yes, it does. Is it a great buy here? No, it's a little bit too stretched for me. I like to buy pullbacks. But once you identify the trend and a breakout, which it looks like we're doing here, then I have to say some red candles. Maybe we'll get them tonight in Asian trading. A little bit of a pullback to these moving averages would be a pretty interesting long for JITO. Jupiter. Let's take a look at what this is doing to Solana, because I think it is really increasing the interest in these. That's our bearish level. So we had a little bit. I'm going to bin these fib retrace levels. I'm a little bit concerned that the market's been a little bit washy at this 38.2 fib. But for me, the touchstone that's kind of proves the market is looking at it is this 236 fib. And when I look at the weekly here in Solana, we did get a very nice reaction here. It was resistance for 3 weeks and then support for 2 weeks. So I'm going to lean on it and say next upside, if we can hold above 104, is 133.95, which is a 50% retrace from the highs that we made November 2021 to the lows in November 2022 in Solana, and looking pretty good. It's been very fashionable for people to be bearish Solana, but it's doing pretty well. We can't argue with that. If I measure this first swing and project it on this fifth swing, I don't know if I should be doing it from here. Sometimes, there's a mathematical relationship between the first swing and the fifth wave, and I'm wondering if this is not just this is 1, 2, and this is 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3, 4 of 3, 5 of 3, and then we have a pullback, and then we have a wave 5. So I'm wondering if I shouldn't, again, I'm not looking to be the world's greatest Elliott wave counter. I'm just looking for confluence in kind of targets, if you like. So I'm going to say, yeah, looks good for these fib retrace levels, and I'm going to stick with 133 and 163 on the upside, but only if we can hold and maintain above 104, which is this 38.2 level, which we seem to be kind of a bit. And you can see what I mean. We got underneath it. Was this a false break above it? It was resistance. Yeah, I'd really like to see us holding above this level if we are going to reverse this downtrend. If you think about it simply, look, a trend is lower lows and lower highs. And so, you know, previous swing highs are really important. You've got to hold above them if you're going to reverse it and start doing higher highs and higher lows. And so 104 then, or even just the round number 100, which would be a little bit lower where these are. 104 is potentially resistance, but holding above 100 should see more upside for Solana, and potentially 133.95 next. If you like this does look like a very nice corrective pullback and a little bit of a breakout of this little correction that we've had. Okay, good luck. If there's anything else you'd like me to look at, let me know.